Okay, time for a new video, and whether you are somebody new to my channel or you are returning to my channel to watch this video, it is greatly appreciated. As always, I'm filming this in one go, so if I stumble over my words going forwards, I apologise in advance, and I should also apologise in advance if the quality of this video later on, if it's pretty poor. Sadly, it cannot be helped. Hopefully that's not too much of an issue for you. Today, I am filming yet another Eurovision Song Contest related video, and I am going to be filming hopefully at least 2 before this year and this decade is out. Now, I did say in my previous video that I had about 1 more left to film. Turns out I have 2 lined up. This one, where I will be talking about, in my opinion, the most underrated and overrated entries from 2010 to 2019 in the contest. And then my next video, all being well, will be me predicting the winners of Eurovision from 2020 to 2029. It will be a bit of a silly video, one that nobody should really take too seriously. But I've been thinking about it quite a bit over the past few weeks, and I have made some what I feel are educated guesses. So that video will be coming at some point, most likely after Christmas now, but before the new year. Today I'm going to go through all the contests from Oslo 2010 to Tel Aviv 2019 and telling you the songs, the entries that I believe are the most overrated and underrated. Now, in my previous video I spoke about, in my opinion again, the strongest songs not to even get out of the semi-finals over the past decade. And I'll probably be mentioning some of those songs again. However, I'm not really going to go into them in any great depth. I'll just be repeating myself. Nobody wants that. And I certainly don't want to be saying the same stuff over and over again on my channel if I can help it. So I might be glossing over certain entries and then talking a little bit more about other songs that I maybe haven't spoken about quite as much on my channel over the past few weeks. As always, let me know your thoughts. I shouldn't need to say this again, but yes, it is all my own opinion, although I do think some Eurovision fans would definitely agree with me on some of these. So, 2010, I've got some information in front of me here. In terms of overrated, could you say Romania in 3rd place, Playing with Fire by Paolo Selinganovi? Could you say that that's a little bit overrated? I would argue the case. Certainly not massively overrated, not at all, but maybe just a tiny bit. I don't know. I didn't expect Romania to finish 3rd. I didn't expect Romania to finish in the top 5 in 2010, if I'm honest. And then looking at the rest of the results, you could say Ukraine, 10th. You could say that's about right. You could also say it's a little bit overrated again. Russia in 11th. Yeah, I remember that this song was booed by the crowd in Oslo. This was Lost and Forgotten by Peter Nalic and friends. A very maudlin, miserable, slow-paced entry. And 11th place with 90 points feels a bit generous, even all these years later. I didn't expect it. I don't think the crowd anticipated it either. But 11th place was indeed the result for Peter Nalic and friends that year. That's a contender for being a bit overrated, isn't it? I don't think that song was the 11th best song of 2010. Serbia in 13th? Maybe. I don't really know. Anyway, in terms of the semi-finals, I won't go into any depth here, but Sweden absolutely should have been in the final, in my opinion. That was Anna Bergendahl with This Is My Life. I think that from semi-final 1... Slovakia, definitely. That was Horeroni by Christina. 16th out of 17 nations, but a huge fan favourite even to this day. And some people would definitely say that Estonia, Malcolm Lincoln and Manpower 4 with Siren, was underrated. Other underrated entries. I feel like Spain has been forgotten about. Their 2010 entry, Algo Pequeñito, Something Tiny, by Daniel Dijes. Of course, that was the second song of the evening, and it was interrupted by Jimmy Jump, who joined in with the choreography, and then Spain performed again at the end. 2 great performances, and great vocals from Daniel, and I feel like that song, even though it finished 15th, which isn't bad, Spain would definitely take that these days, that's a little bit underrated and forgotten about. Portugal's entry I've definitely enjoyed more over the past few years. Iceland, massive fan favourite that failed, it has to be said. You could say that's an underrated entry. I very much like the Irish ballad by Niamh Kavanagh, It's For You, 23rd with 25 points. That's underrated in my opinion. Israel as well, Milim, which I believe means words, performed in Hebrew by Harel Scott. Very simplistic performance, not a whole lot of movement. I think there was a guy with a piano. He was wearing a suit, Harel. Very good song, 14th place, 71 points. That was expected to finish much higher, and the juries loved it, but the public didn't. So you have to say in the public vote, certainly, that song a bit underrated. But of course, let me know your thoughts. Moving on to 2011. Oh dear, you'll have to excuse me, I've got a bit of a pain in my back. 2011, well, a lot of people would say the most overrated entry was the winning entry for Azerbaijan, Running Scared by Ellen Nicky. This was expected to finish in the top 10, yes. I just don't think many people anticipated Azerbaijan coming out on top. A ballad, we all know it. I don't mind it at all. I would say maybe it was a little bit overrated, yes. People would say Italy in second place, but I disagree. I think that song very much deserved to finish that high up on the scoreboard because it was classy and different and really strong stuff. Even if you don't like jazz, you have to appreciate it for what it is. I would say Greece was absolutely overrated. 7th place, 120 points. That was Watch My Dance, sort of a powerful piece of music mixed with rap, which in all honesty sort of ruined it a little bit. Lukas Yorkas featuring Stereo Mike, 120 points. Yeah, I just was never a fan of this one, and 7th place seems far too high for me. Georgia as well, 9th place. It was a solid performance. It was a rock song. Eldrine with One More Day, female lead singer in a black and green outfit. There was a bit of rap in that song as well. But 9th place, was it really the 9th best song of 2011? I don't know. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't think there are any other overrated entries besides possibly the most overrated entry we've had this decade, if not of the whole century so far. And I know a lot of people might disagree with me on this one, but it's Ukraine. 4th place. What a load of rubbish. 159 points for Mika Newton with Angel. If it hadn't been for the Sand Artist, I don't think this song would have stood out at all. Mika sang well. I've got no issue with her at all. But the song is really quite dull. It doesn't go anywhere. And I couldn't believe it when I was watching the voting all those years ago. Ukraine were really pushing for the win. And the atmosphere, you could tell from watching on TV, the people in Dusseldorf at the time probably didn't have a clue what was going on either. I didn't understand how on earth Ukraine were getting so many points. They've sent far better that have finished much lower. But yes, Mika Newton with Angel finished 4th. Beyond me. Don't understand it. I mean, the public definitely underrated Denmark, but Denmark finished 5th anyway. The United Kingdom would have been in the top 5 had it been 100% televoting, but of course the juries killed our chances. You have to say the UK may be a little bit underrated. Moldova, overrated, 12th place. Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. Slovenia, big fan favourite, that one. Maja Kojic, let's just call her Maya, with No One. 13th place, 96 points. I know a lot of Eurovision fans love that one, but let's not forget, it was the public who really underrated this one, and it was the juries who saved Slovenia from finishing much lower on that 2011 scoreboard. So let's not forget that. France were expected to push for the win, never did. That was Sonyu, a song in Corsican by Mauri Vasili. That should have finished a few places higher. Finland was underrated. Hungary, big fan favourite, massively underrated. Spain, underrated. Estonia, one of my personal favourites, Rockefeller Street, underrated. Switzerland in last place. That's really harsh. Admittedly thin on lyrics. But Anna Rossinelli in Love for a While, 19 points. That's really unfair. And then in the semi-finals, people would say Bulgaria, yes. Slovakia, underrated. That was Twins with I'm Still Alive, albeit a very cheesy song. Latvia, Angel in Disguise by Music. That should have finished a few places higher as well. And even the Netherlands, with Never Alone, finishing last overall in 2011. I don't think that should have been the case, although the live performance was a bit weak. And then from semi-final 1, you have to say Norway. Habba Habba by Stella Mwangi. That should have probably been in the final. People were expecting it to be there. And then Poland, who came last with 18 points with Jestem by Magdalena Tull. I thought the live performance was really not that great. Vocally, not at all. But last place again. Portugal finished above it, albeit by just a few points, but even so, yeah, don't know what that's all about. I have to say, 2011, some very, very strange results. Lots of underrated entries, either by the jury or by the public. Moving on to 2012, let me know your thoughts, of course, as we move into the Baku competition. Let's take a look. Overrated, Russia, without a shadow of a doubt. Second place, BS. 259 points for Party for Everybody by Buranovsky Babushki. This received points because people saw it as a bit of a joke, or they thought it was cute, and they liked the idea of several elderly Russian women singing a song in Udmurt and English winning. But this was by absolutely no means the second best entry of the 2012 competition. I mean, it's fun, it's likeable, but it's not the second best song of that year's show. And let's not forget, the public nearly had this as their winner over Loreen. Outrageous. I mean, the two songs are just in whole other leagues, you know what I mean? Serbia in third, that was a little bit overrated. Even Azerbaijan in fourth, Albania in fifth. I mean, again, I can appreciate it for what it is, but at the time, I just thought, stop shouting. If I'm being honest. Turkey in 7th. I always thought that was a bit overrated. Chan Bonomo with Love Me Back. Fairly catchy, but I wouldn't say it was top 7 worthy. And I think Turkey looked at that result, saw that the juries weren't so keen, and said, you know what, stuff it, we'll withdraw. And they haven't been back since. Spain in 10th. Even though it's top 10, that's underrated, because again, let's not forget, the public really placed this nowhere, as they did with Italy, who finished 9th overall as well. Ukraine was very much overrated by the juries. I think that's about it. Underrated, the UK. Being on first was damaging for Engelbert Humperdinck. Denmark, one of my personal favourites, Should Have Known Better by Saluna Samai. The performance with a sofa on stage, that should have finished a lot higher. Iceland, big fan favourite, finished 20th. That's really not on. And then Cyprus, also very much liked coming into the 2012 competition. Ivy Adamu with La La Love, 16th place. That's really quite low. And then in terms of the semi-finals, people would say Bulgaria, but I certainly wouldn't. I found that to be a very, very messy performance. Love Unlimited, of course. Slovenia with Verjamem, Eva Botto, that was criminally underrated. Just did not understand that result at all, and I still don't understand it. And then Finland from semi-final 1, you could also say was a little bit on the underrated side. Beautiful song performed in Swedish. Moving on to 2013. Yes, this was Malmö. And in terms of overrated, well, there's definitely one that springs to mind, and that's Romania, 13th place. It was the public winner in its semi-final. That's just ridiculous to me. I think people saw it as a joke and voted for it because of the fact that it's a bit of a jokey song. This was César with It's My Life, operatic pop. I mean, he sang very well, but it was just really silly. Other songs that were overrated. You could say Greece in 6th, although I definitely think that was a very fine performance of, again, a bit of a jokey song. Azerbaijan, absolutely. The runner-up, I don't think so. I thought Ukraine, Norway, Russia, Greece, Italy, they were better. 234 points, Hold Me by Farid Mamadov. Again, a very good singer. You had that glass box on stage. I listened to this song just the other day, actually, and it's really not that bad, but I don't think it was the second best song of 2013. Some people would very much disagree with me on that. Again, I think we have a lot of underrated entries. Montenegro, Lots of Eurovision fans would say that's one of the most underrated songs of the past 10 years, but I've never been a fan of it. I prefer Austria, who didn't qualify either. Natalia Kelly with Shine. Very simple, very static performance, very forgettable, it has to be said though. San Marino should have been in the final, arguably. Finished 11th in semi-final 2, Valentina Monetta's second bite of the Eurovision cherry. And then the songs that were in the final, Armenia was overrated, wasn't it? Dorians with Lonely Planet, booed when they got through to the final. Bit of a soft rock song, 18th place, 41 points. That's a few places too high in my opinion. United Kingdom, Bonnie Tyler, that was a bit underrated. Germany, massive fan favourite that completely failed. And I'm not too surprised. Finland was expected to do better, underrated. Spain, I very much enjoy that song. Contigo hasta el final by ESDM. El Sueño de Morfeo. She was in a yellow dress, the female lead singer. 2 other guys in the group. And it was just really beautifully done. The vocals were a little bit shaky. I think she was barefoot. That's a really good song that was really underrated. And then Ireland in last place, which I don't get, because in the split results, Ireland were 14th with the public, 23rd out of 26 with the juries, and somehow finished last. Don't get it. Don't get how they worked that out. But anyway, Iceland was underrated. That's a terrific ballad performed in Icelandic by Eyþór Ingi Gunnlaugsson. Jägerlíf, I Have a Life, 17th place, 47 points. Underrated. And in terms of the public vote, Sweden. The juries loved it, the public not so much. That was Robin Stjernberg with You, finished 14th, and of course every year since, Sweden have been in the top 10. Moving on to 2014. Copenhagen, this one. Okay, in terms of overrated, Hungary, perhaps, just a touch in my opinion, although that was very popular. Russia in 7th, that's a bit too high. Tolmachovi sisters, former junior Eurovision winners of course, many years back, with Shine. Their hair was interlocked at one point, there was that seesaw thing as well. 89 points, yeah, that's a bit overrated. Yeah, Belarus in the final, 16th place, 43 points. Yeah, that's a little bit overrated as well. And then underrated, there's quite a few. France in last. Watched that performance back the other day as well. I mean, it's very chaotic, very colourful and very messy, but actually 2 points, that's really, really unfair. Slovenia, that's a pretty good song that was very much underrated. Malta, juries loved it, public didn't. 23rd overall, that's harsh. Greece, you could say, expected to do better. The UK, I think, were 3rd favourites on the day of the 2014 competition. That was Molly Smitten-Downs with Children of the Universe. 17th place, 40 points. That's low. That's low. Poland were very much underrated by the juries and loved by the public. That wasn't a surprise at all. 14th overall for what was one of the standout performances of 2014. Spain finished 10th. But once again, Spain were wildly underrated in the public half of the votes. Denmark were as well. Ireland, the performance just wasn't up to scratch in that second semi-final. Canlin featuring Casey Smith with Heartbeat, 12th place, 35 points, should have done better, and Israel should have done a lot better. I just don't quite understand why that that song struggled so much. May Feingold with Same Heart, 14th out of 15 countries, 19 points. I just think that's really quite baffling. And then, again, you could say semi-final 1, Portugal, Estonia, but I'll gloss over those entries for now. Moving on to 2015 in Vienna, which for me was one of the weakest contests we've had for a long time. Overrated. Possibly Latvia in 6th. That's a very good, solid song though, so I think if it's overrated, it's by the tiniest of margins. Serbia in 10th. I think that's several places too high. That was not the 10th best song of 2015 in my opinion. Armenia, I mean 16th is mid-table-ish, but I think other songs that finished below Genealogy were better. Yeah, and then underrated, well, Austria and Germany should not have finished with 0 points each. That's really, really unfair. But such was the dominance of the top 4, top 5, Some countries were inevitably going to end up with very few points, and it just turned out to be Austria and Germany. France, a little bit underrated, very fine ballad that was on early. Cyprus, very charming song that I think people just pushed to one side, although the juries loved it. Spain, never been a huge fan of that one, but I think a lot of Eurovision fans would say that was underrated. That was Amanecer, which means dawn, performed by Edurne, who I believe is still dating the Manchester United goalkeeper David De Gea, who made an absolute mess when Manchester United played Watford yesterday. Fun fact. In terms of underrated, Iceland, although the performance, like Ireland the year before, wasn't quite up to scratch. Ireland, that song is so beautiful, so great. It took me so long to warm up to it, playing with numbers by Molly Sterling. Oh wow, that's a song I think Eurovision fans need to go back and listen to, because it's really tremendous, and I think they'll understand why it was underrated, but also that perhaps it should have done better. And then the Netherlands in semi-final 1 should have done a little better too. That was Walk Along. The problem there was how it was staged. Everything else was pretty fine. Belarus as well, yeah, probably should have gone through. Hungary went through instead. Who remembers that one? Not many people. Moving on to 2016, great year, much better than 2015 in my opinion, in pretty much every department. Overrated. Well, I'm going to say Ukraine, the winner. I knew that was going to do well, but I didn't think it was going to win. Sweden in 5th, that's generous. Poland, heavens above. 8th place, 3rd in the public vote. Didn't understand it then. Well, the diaspora played a part, but come on. 8th. No. A lot of people will disagree with me on that, but Poland has sent far better that has finished much lower. Otherwise, I wouldn't say there are many overrated songs. Maybe Malta, who finished 12th. I know the public weren't so keen on that. The juries loved it. But yeah, that wasn't the 12th best song of 2016 in my opinion. Mainly underrated entries again. Germany in last, but the staging wasn't great. Czech Republic, Big Fat Zero from the public. Very harsh. It was on early, but that shouldn't have mattered. Fantastic ballad. Spain with Say Yay by Beret. 22nd place, 77 points. Harsh. Again, Spain underrated by the public. The juries liked it a little more, but the energy from the studio version completely disappeared on stage in Stockholm. That was the issue. Serbia, yeah, that was good stuff. Sanja Vucic with Goodbye Shelter. Really liked the message of the song and how it was performed. 18th place, that's quite low. Italy, oh, I love that song so very much. Francesca Michelin is probably one of my favourite musicians in Eurovision, maybe of all time. I really liked her. I liked her energy, and she was just so likeable. I watched so many interviews with her. No Degree of Separation, 16th place, 124 points. That's really harsh. Israel were totally dismissed in the public vote. That song was really pretty strong for a ballad. 14th place, the juries saved it. I feel like Belgium has been a little bit forgotten about, although 10th place was a very impressive result for What's the Pressure by Laura Tesoro, first song of that year's grand final. And then in the semi-finals, Norway I liked, but it was 2 songs in one really, and it jarred with a lot of people, so I can understand why it didn't go through. That was Icebreaker by Agneta. Slovenia, their version of Taylor Swift, Manuela with Blue and Red, thought that was a little bit underrated. And then from semi-final 1, Iceland should have qualified. There's no way San Marino and Montenegro should have finished above. Greta Salome with Hear Them Calling, 14th place, 51 points. That was a really smashing performance. It wasn't outstanding, but it was very strong. And it should have gone through. Simple as that. Estonia, last overall as well. Again, the performance could have been stronger, but it shouldn't have been last, in my opinion. 2017, overrated. Bulgaria. Simple as that. I can understand Portugal winning by a huge margin. People were just utterly charmed by Salvador. Bulgaria, I just find it boring. Simple as that. Find it really dull. I don't find Amar Pelos Deutsch dull, because there's something that's quite captivating and beautiful about it, but Beautiful Mess I just can't get into for some reason. Christian Kostov, he's fine, sang well for somebody so young, great stage presence, but the song, 6 115 points. That's a bit overrated. Some people would say Romania in the top 10, potentially. Croatia in 13th. That's a little bit high, isn't it? And then in terms of underrated, again, there's more underrated than overrated. Yes. I mean, the United Kingdom, Lucy Jones, Never Give Up on You, beautiful ballad. She sang well. I think her facial expressions maybe didn't help matters, but come on, 15th place, 111 points, should have been a few places higher. France were underrated by the juries, should have finished higher. Netherlands, for some reason the public totally dismissed one of the finest vocal performances we've had of the past decade. That was O'Gene with Lights and Shadows, finished 11th, which isn't too bad. Italy, expected to win, but only finished 6th. Again, like Spain the year before, studio version, and indeed the national final version, top notch. On that Eurovision stage, the energy just seemed to disappear. It wasn't as impressive. That was the issue. And then in terms of Finland, in the semi-final, not getting through, Blackbird by Norma John, beautiful song that really should have gone through. And then Switzerland, maybe. People would say Estonia, although I didn't think that was very strong at all. Yeah, moving on to 2018. I'm really trying to race through this now. This was only last year, but it feels like a lot longer ago. Overrated. Austria in 3rd. I mean, I can understand why the juries loved it, but it was not the best song of 2018, that's for sure. I feel like the Czech Republic, even though it's a good song, Lie to Me by Mikolas Joseph, it was performed very well. I don't think that should have finished quite as high up. Sweden in 7th. Wow. Well, what can you say? The juries went mad for it and the public really didn't. And I do think the public underrated it a little bit, but there's no denying the juries overrated this to all hell. I mean, it was slick, but it was really quite bland, you know? Dance You Off. 7th place, okay, but it was overrated by the juries, no doubt about it. Moldova in 10th, the staging helped, no doubt about that. Underrated, Portugal, last place. That's a contender for the most underrated song we've had of the century so far. I can't believe O Jardim, which is one of the most beautiful songs I've heard, full stop, Eurovision related or not, over the past few years. I can't believe that finished last. Claudia Pasquale and Isaura, 39 points. The juries and public should have appreciated this a lot more. You could say Finland. You could say Australia. Jessica Mauboy should not have been last with the public. Even Ireland maybe should have finished a few places higher. That was a smashing performance. And France, expected to push for the win, 13th. Really poor when you think about it. Lithuania in 12th. Yeah, I think that's about right. Denmark underrated by the juries, that's for sure. And then semi-finals. I thought Malta should have finished higher with the public. There was no way Malta should have finished lower than Russia in the public vote in that second semi-final, for example. And then semi-final 1, Switzerland were underrated by the public. Belgium were underrated by the public. And Macedonia, yeah, studio version's fantastic, but the live version wasn't working, was it? And the outfit wasn't great either. And then this year, dear oh dear, what a rambling video again. I do apologise if the quality's bad. Sadly, it can't be helped. Overrated. Russia in 3rd. I keep mentioning Russia, but they're either... well, they're more often than not overrated, in my opinion. 3rd place, yeah, fair enough, but I don't think it was the 3rd strongest song, even though Sergei sang the hell out of it. North Macedonia in 7th place. I mean, a fine ballad, but was it really the best song of the evening? I mean, the juries thought so, but was it really? I don't think so. I mean, it was performed well. Let's not take it away from Tamara. She sang it very well, and it was a really beautifully done performance. People would say Denmark, but I said all along that Denmark would do better than people expected. I think France was overrated by fans coming into the competition and then finished 16th and nobody was really surprised. San Marino in 19th. Above Greece? Above Spain? I don't think so. let's take a look at underrated. Germany, to be honest, should not have got a big fat 0 from the public. That's really not that bad a song. Spain should have finished way higher overall, and the juries totally ignored it. I can't believe they ignored Israel, to be honest with you. Greece, studio version great, live version not so fantastic, but should have finished higher. Malta should have finished higher, fantastic, but they were on first. Czech Republic were very much underrated with the public as well. Australia, a little bit underrated with the public too. Norway, underrated by the juries. And then in terms of songs that didn't get out of the semi-finals, I think Lithuania was a little bit overrated by the public. But then again, big diaspora. Got to be honest, that helps. Some people would say Portugal, Telemovage by Conan Osiris, but I think it just flew over people's heads, if you see what I mean. They couldn't quite work out what it was all supposed to be about. And therefore, the juries didn't go for it. And neither did the public, really. Hungary was underrated, absolutely. That was a beautiful performance. And you could even argue Poland with Tulia, the all-girl group. Maybe that should have been in the final. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I'm very, very interested. And that's it. What a long video. But those are my thoughts on the most overrated and underrated entries from 2010 to 2019. I'll be back, definitely after Christmas now. He says I might film my prediction video for 2020 to 2029 later today or tomorrow. I don't know. It'll be up at some point before the end of the year. All being well, things might be quite busy. In other news, we do know the first act and song for Eurovision 2020. It's Shy for Albania. It means shout, performed by Arilena Arra, young female musician. It's a ballad, not the song that a lot of Eurovision fans wanted, but it's the one we've ended up with. Rumours are it will be translated into English. I think it was originally in English. It's a very strong ballad, but is it really that memorable? I don't know. Good staging will help in Rotterdam, of course. We know the acts in contention for Australia, all of them now. We know the acts in contention for Croatia, they were announced earlier, and we also know the acts in contention, pretty much all of them, for Slovenia. And I think I said in a video a number of weeks ago that I think Slovenia might do quite well next year. I've just got a sneaky feeling that they might get one of their best ever results. But what do I know? Let me know your thoughts on anything I've mentioned in this video, anything Eurovision related at all. If you celebrate Christmas, have a good one. If you don't, then hopefully you'll be surrounded by people you love. And until next time, thank you very much for watching this massive ramble, and bye for now.